Have you ever been scrolling your feed and seen some action footage that it just pops? It looks less like a headcam video and more like a scene from a movie, right? And you're sitting there wondering, how in the world did they do that? Well, the secret isn't just buying a better camera. It's about having a better process. Today, we're going to climb what I call the cinematic ladder, a step-by-step guide to take your footage from just okay to absolutely incredible.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We all know the difference when we see it. On one hand, you've got that shaky, kind of flat-looking video, and on the other, you have that smooth, dynamic, totally professional-looking footage that just pulls you right into the moment. We're going to break down exactly how to get from here to there. And listen, it's not some single magic trick. It's all about layering skills and a few key pieces of gear, one on top of the other.
So, first things first, we have to start at level 1, the foundation. Seriously, before you even think about fancy filters or expensive editing software, the most important step is mastering stability and your angles. This is where great footage is born. And the best part? It costs next to nothing to get it right.
So let's talk about the two biggest mistakes I see all the time. First, action cams have these super wide lenses, which means people film from way too far away, and their subject just gets lost in the frame. You've got to get close. Second, people rely way too much on digital stabilization, like Hypersmooth. I mean, it's amazing technology, but it's not magic. It can't fix crazy shaky footage. The pro move is to use your own body to be as steady as possible, and then use proper mounts to find those really unique, stable angles.
So how do you solve that stability problem? Well, the very first tool in your kit shouldn't be some $1,000 drone. It should be a simple, versatile tripod. A combo tripod and selfie stick like this one from Ulanzi is a total game changer. It gives you a stable base for things like time lapses. It helps you get those awesome low-angle shots. And it just gives you so much more control than holding the camera with your bare hands. This thing is the absolute core of your cinematic toolkit.
All right, let's move on up to level 2. Your shots are stable now, which is awesome. But now we're going to add that little secret sauce that makes video feel truly cinematic, controlling light and motion. This, right here, is what separates a basic home video from something that feels like it belongs on the big screen. And it all comes down to one thing: motion blur.
The key to this is something called the 180-degree shutter rule. It's a classic filmmaking principle. And in really simple terms, it just means you set your shutter speed to double your frame rate. So if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, which is the movie standard, your shutter speed should be 1/48th of a second, or as close as you can get. This creates this really subtle, natural-looking motion blur that our eyes are just used to seeing in movies. It's the complete opposite of that choppy, super sharp video look.
So how do you actually do it? Well, it's a 3-step process. First, you set your camera to a cinematic frame rate like 24 or 25 frames per second. Second, you lock your shutter speed to double that, so about 1/50th of a second. But, and this is a big but, if you try this on a bright sunny day, your video is going to be a completely white, overexposed mess. And that's where step 3 becomes absolutely crucial. You need to use ND filters. Just think of them as sunglasses for your camera. They reduce the amount of light coming in, which lets you use that slow shutter speed and get that perfect motion blur.
But this is where we hit a pretty big wall. As this quote points out, the very thing we just did to get that beautiful motion blur creates a huge conflict with your camera's best feature, its built-in stabilization.
Okay, so here's what's happening under the hood. Digital stabilization works by analyzing sharp, clear frames of video and then cropping in to smooth out the movement. But our cinematic settings, the ones with the slow shutter speed, are creating intentionally blurry frames. The software basically gets confused by the blur, and the result is this ugly jitter and these weird ghosting artifacts. So it seems like you have to make a choice. You either get cinematic motion blur or you get smooth stabilization. But what if you could have both?
This brings us to level 3, where we solve this problem once and for all. This is where we get truly smooth cinematic motion. And you know what? While we're at it, let's tackle the other half of what makes a video feel pro, the audio.
Their solution is to stop relying on software and start using hardware. We're talking about a mechanical gimbal. A gimbal physically moves the camera to cancel out your shake. And because it's a physical movement, it doesn't need to analyze the frames of your video. It doesn't care if your shutter speed is fast or slow. It works perfectly with ND filters, which means you get both that buttery smooth motion and your cinematic motion blur. It's the best of both worlds.
This, right here, is the key that unlocks everything we've been talking about. A 3-axis gimbal, like the ones from Hohem that are surprisingly affordable, completely solves that jitter problem. It is the tool that lets you combine stability with motion blur, finally letting you get that truly professional look without making any compromises.
Okay, so at this point, your video looks absolutely incredible. It's stable, it's smooth, it's got that beautiful motion blur, but we are not done yet, because bad audio can ruin even the most gorgeous footage.
I mean, this chart really says it all. Look at the bar on the far left. That's your camera's built-in microphone. It's fine. Now look at the middle bar. Connecting a mic with Bluetooth is definitely a step up, but look at that massive jump on the right. That is the kind of quality you get when you use a dedicated wireless system that has its own receiver.
So why is the receiver so important? Well, think of it this way. Bluetooth audio is kind of like a compressed MP3 file. It's convenient, sure, but you're losing a lot of detail. The dedicated receiver, on the other hand, is like a lossless WAV file. It captures the full, uncompressed, broadcast quality sound. It's literally the difference between how a phone call sounds and how a studio recording sounds.
And now, we have finally reached the top of the ladder. Level 4, the final polish. Your footage is stable, it's smooth, and it sounds incredible. The very last step is to take full control over the color and give your video a unique, professional style. And this is all done in post-production, but it actually starts with how you shoot.
The secret here is to shoot in what's called a log video profile. Now, a log profile looks really flat and washed out straight out of the camera, but that's on purpose. Think of it like a digital negative for photos. It's preserving the maximum amount of information, all the details in the shadows and the highlights. And this gives you incredible flexibility to shape the color and the contrast later on in your edit.
And the pro workflow for this is surprisingly simple. First, you shoot in log to capture all that rich data. Then, in your editing software, you apply something called a LUT. You can just think of it as a base layer that instantly converts that flat image back to a normal, colorful starting point. And then comes the fun part. You get to be the artist. You get to fine-tune the colors and the contrast to create your own signature cinematic look.
Now, here is a crucial pro tip that could save you a ton of frustration. Sometimes your gear has hidden potential that its own software actually locks away. For example, if you want to shoot an Apple log on an iPhone 15 with a DJI gimbal, you can't use DJI's Mimo app. It just doesn't support it. You have to use the iPhone's native camera app or a pro app like Blackmagic Camera. Knowing these little software quirks is absolutely key to unlocking your hardware's true power.
And that right there is the final piece of the puzzle. Knowing your gear inside and out. We've now climbed the entire cinematic ladder. See, it's not about one magic button. It's about layering all of these techniques together to build your complete cinematic toolkit. So let's just look back real quick at how far we've climbed. We started with the foundation at level 1, simple stability with a tripod. Then at level 2, we added ND filters to get that filmic motion blur. Level 3 was the real game changer, using a gimbal for flawless motion and a wireless mic for pro audio. And finally, at level 4, we unlocked our own unique style with log profiles and color grading. You see how each level just builds perfectly on the last one?
By combining all of these tools and techniques, you can elevate your action camera footage to a level you might not have even thought was possible. You have the knowledge now. You have the roadmap. The only question left is, what story are you going to tell?